What if joy isn't something you stumble upon, but something you map? Not a destination outside of you, but a frequency you learn to recognize, return to, and live from. Today in the Aura Room, we're exploring what it means to chart your own inner terrain through awareness, calm, and conscious choice. Welcome to Aura Room, a space for intuitive insight, energetic awareness, and meaningful inner shifts. I'm Archita, and today I'm joined by Stacie Shifflett, author, founder of Modern Consciousness, and a transformation guide known for helping people create clarity where there once was chaos. Stacie is the creator of Treasure Map to Joy, and her work invites us into structured self discovery where joy isn't focused or chased, but revealed through calm curiosity and deep inner listening. So, Stacie, welcome to Aura Room. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Archita. I am happy to be here.
Amazing. So, Stacy, let's start with the basics first. I'm curious to know, after so many reinventions in your life, when did you realize that joy wasn't something you achieved, but something that you could consciously chart from within?
Well, I think it was really later in life. I've had a lot of uh, different life experiences. I've been in so many different industries and careers and businesses, so on and so forth. And I have always sort of charted my own way through life. I've kind of done things my way, not necessarily following the tracks of others, but kind of creating my own journey. Associating it with joy actually came to me later in life as I was called to create this company, Modern Consciousness. And my Elevate Your Life program, and the output of that really is charting your treasure map to joy. And then, of course, I just released a book in November called Treasure Map to Joy: One Woman's Journey from Disruption to Joy. So it's a key theme for me and one that I love to talk about and help others realize that they can do the same.
That's interesting. I mean, that shift from striving to listening, it already feels like a doorway into a different energetic state. So, yeah, Stacy, moving on, many people believe that joy comes after everything is fixed or figured out. And I won't lie, even I believe that sometimes. But from your perspective, what's a common misunderstanding that people have about joy?
Well, I think probably the most common understanding or misunderstanding, rather, is that we associate it with something external to ourselves, some sort of achievement, or we have some sort of condition attached to it. Um, or we believe that right now is not the season of life for joy, it's the season of hard work, and I need to postpone joy. So I think the most common misconception is that you cannot have joy be your default emotion. And you absolutely can have joy be your default, the thing that you return naturally to time and time again, regardless of the situation that you're in. Even when we're going through difficult and challenging times, we can still rely on a foundation of joy to support us. Just because we're grieving, for example, doesn't really mean that joy is absent. It's just might be in the background for a little bit. And if we can bring ourselves around even a few moments each day to position ourselves in joy and sort of think about more joyful things, it helps us change that to our default emotion.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Even after everything, I feel like it's safe to say that joy is something that needs to be created. And I've seen like so many of my friends, they are always like, oh, let me get this exam done and then we'll, go out and then we'll have fun. But that the time never comes. So I think, like, yeah. So I think, like you just said, I think we set a period for when we can have joy, and it's only after we hard work for it. But I think people need to understand that joy isn't a reward at the end, and it's something we can access even while life is unfolding, or like you said, happening. So
Yes,
yeah,
and
definitely.
it's entirely accessible from within, right? It is not dependent on circumstances being perfect. It doesn't require anybody else's permission. Nobody has to validate that for you, right? We can have a steady inner baseline of joy. Even if we're and when we're in alignment, right? Even if we're at a time of life where we're studying and trying to pass an exam, or we have a big project due at work. Now, granted, we direct our attention towards those things, but we can still be joyful about doing them. We could be joyful about simple tasks like going to the grocery store, which is an example that I use quite often. Um, it's just a matter of our mindset and how we approach it.
Exactly. And sometimes some of the most tedious work can also turn joyful. But while I also believe that turning in an assignment is the least joyful thing to ever exist, but I think, yeah, we can always try. So let's stay with that. Stacey, you often speak about calming emotional triggers. Why do you see emotional regulation as the hidden foundation for joy?
Well, I think if there is one thing that we can do to change our lives, it's to calm those emotional triggers. And that is us reacting on autopilot to something outside of ourselves that most often has really nothing to do with us anyway. So that pulls us out of our joy. It pulls us out of our frequency. It pulls us out of whatever we're doing and thinking about into this other circumstance. And if we look at them, um, we have to look at why it's triggering us. We often blame the other person for pushing our button or for doing something, but really it's our reaction and we are 100% responsible for our reactions. So I think it's very, very important to look at what is triggering you. And I have a process for that. It's a free workbook that's on my website. And it really asks you to look at the situation in a different way and in ways that you maybe haven't asked yourself to look at it before. Um, because if we spend all of our time reacting to everything around us, we never reach that quiet internal space. And that quiet internal space is what keeps us rooted in joy.
That's that's so true. It's powerful to hear, joy framed as a nervous system experience and not just a mindset. But that brings me to the question, Stacy, how can people exactly regulate their emotions to establish joy within themselves?
We have to be very conscious about it. We have to raise our awareness, right? So we have to, I don't want to really say be on guard, but we have to be quiet enough that we're listening to what we are telling ourselves, because we give ourselves feedback all the time. And most of that feedback is negative, right? Um, and so when we start to become aware of it, then we can choose to redirect it. We can ask it, oh, where did I adopt that belief? Oh, is it true? Is it even true? And it takes just conscious pattern recognition of your own patterns, right? So, I was talking with someone the other day, And I know this is something that I work with my clients on as well. Like, what is the one thing that you can do, just one thing that you can do to create the most positive change in your life? So, let's say you are the kind of person that has a very pessimistic outlook. Everything is going to go as badly as it can possibly go. You always expect the worst possible outcome. So if you can just shift that one habit of yours, and it is a habit, our thoughts and our thinking are habits, think how much more positive that would, how much more positivity you would have in every area of your life, right? In your relationships, in your work, absolutely everything. So what it takes is the ability for you to catch yourself thinking that negative thought, like, oh my God, I'm going to fail my test. Well, how many tests have you passed, right? What are your grades? Is it possible? Is it true? How can you reframe that in a way that's going to support you taking the test rather than make you more nervous about taking the test? And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like we just have to be very aware of it when it pops into our mind, it pops into our internal conversations, and we have to consciously redirect it to something else. Now, once you do that for a few months, it's like any habit. It becomes the new habit. And you will find yourself at a point where you're faced with a situation and your thought is a much more positive thought and you'll go, "Oh my goodness, that was me," right? Like that would not have been me 2 months ago. So you have retrained yourself to react and think in a different way, and we just do it one little piece at a time. That's what a lot of, I think a lot in the personal development world and when people try to make changes in their lives, they try to change too much at once. Just find that one thing, that one thread that runs through your life, the pattern of thinking, the pattern of thought, the pattern of reaction that you can change that will positively impact every area of your life.
That's a great outlook on life, and it really puts things into perspective, and some amazing advice. I mean, thank you, Stacy, for sharing that with our listeners. It was really helpful. And on that note, I was curious, how does this work show up day to day? I mean, what tends to shift for people when they begin understanding themselves more clearly instead of judging themselves?
Well, I think when we approach our lives with open curiosity and instead of judgment, it makes a big difference because we're not criticizing ourselves, for one. But I think that the most valuable exercise is to ensure that you are aligned with what you want to be doing. Why are you doing what you're doing? Um, and we should be positively aligned with that to make sure that what we're doing is moving us in the direction that we want to go in. I'll go back to studies because you mentioned exams and studying in school. And perhaps it's your parents pressuring you, that's what you think you need to do, so on and so forth. All that is fine. And sometimes you just need to readjust your thinking of it, right? Instead of saying, "Oh my god, this is not what I want to do." Readjust and say, "Gosh, where is this education? What is this education going to do for me? How is it going to positively impact my life?" And start thinking about it in those terms instead of complaining about it, right? So until we really sit down and look at whatever it is in the big picture, um, we can't really assess if it's truly aligned with the direction that we want to go in our life. School is a great example because you really kind of put some areas of your life on hold for a bit because you're focused on your studies. I mean, I had areas in my life where I worked and I was very, very focused on my work. Um, but I was still joyful about it, right? I was moving my career forward. I was learning things. I made positive contributions to the companies that I worked with or to employees when they were my own companies. So it's just a matter of characterizing it and defining it in positive terms instead of negative terms. Now, if you're in a completely miserable situation, get out, do something else, right?
Yeah, exactly. That sense of self trust feels like a subtle but profound energetic recalibration. So, yeah, I 100% agree. I think there is always the option to look at things more positively, even if the situation not always calls for it. But I think it is within us to, you know, uh, look at it from a different perspective. So, definitely. So, Stacy, moving on, your treasure map to joy offers structure without control. For someone feeling overwhelmed or lost, what's a gentle first step in charting their own map?
Um, the first step, I think the first step would be calm your emotional triggers. I really, really do. I think that that's a good place to start because generally when we lapse into very negative thinking, some situations or even a thought that we have had is what triggers that downward spiral. And if we continue to spiral downward, things get worse, right? If we keep stacking all the negative things on top of other negative things, we're never going to reach a space that yields a different result, which would be something positive that we're seeking, right? So it's our responsibility to kind of redirect that to get the assistance needed if we need help in doing it. Um, and to kind of get ourselves back on track and help ourselves, right? We have the capacity to help ourselves more than anybody else has the capacity to help us. And I think that we need to remember that. And triggers, your emotional triggers is a great way to do it. Now, if you have a behavior that you do that let's say you constantly procrastinate, and all that does is reinforce negativity, right? Because then you get upset at yourself because you're procrastinating, then you're behind on your timelines, your schedules, you haven't done things that needed to be done. So when we continue that, we have to recognize that what we're actually doing, right? The outcome of that, if we look at the outcome, we're just heaping more self-loathing upon ourselves. So why do that? So try to change that behavior a little at a time, right? We're not perfect out of the gate. Try to change that behavior a little bit at a time. And you will start seeing a positive result. And then the thing is, when you start seeing positive results, it shifts that spiral upward, right? So that you're getting more positive energy and you're feeling more positive emotions, which means you feel better about yourself. If that does that make sense?
Definitely, it makes a lot of sense. Basically, everything comes back to, regulating your emotions. And I think it applies to a lot of things in life as well. So, yeah, I mean, to our listeners, control your emotional triggers as much as you can because everything eventually circles back to that. And basically, so instead of forcing answers, it's about asking better questions and with compassion. So, yeah. And yeah, Stacy, when emotional patterns resurface because they tend to do that a lot. So yeah. So, what helps people stay connected to their inner compass rather than slipping back into reactivity?
Again, I think it's all awareness, and I think if we keep it in the front of our mind, and we can do that in a number of ways, right? Some people have a daily morning practice. Some people journal in the evening. Some people will set a reminder on their phone to notify them 2 or 3 times a day to stay on track. The main thing is to keep it in front of your mind, in your awareness, so that you can consciously and intentionally do something about it and not let it slip back into your subconscious behavior, which it's going to do about a million times before before you rev yourself. But yeah, I think it takes a keen awareness to notice what you're thinking, and to do that just takes a short pause, right? You have to listen to yourself instead of just it's like if you're running, and if you just keep running as fast as you can, you're not noticing everything that's around you. If you slow down a little bit, then you start noticing the things around you. So, one way that I put this quite frequently is that we get in trouble when the momentum of our lives is created by the activities in our lives. In other words, we are so overscheduled and on the go and on the run all the time. So, when we're doing that, we might be thinking we're heading in a direction that we want to go in, but we really have bypassed um, the intentionality behind what we're doing. And we just have to remind ourselves of that throughout the day, at least once a day.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, everything, so much is happening around us every day. So it's really important to, sometimes calm down, take a break, and then look at things as they are and try to understand them without letting it overwhelm you, obviously. But yeah, that reminder that awareness itself is progress. It feels deeply reassuring. So thank you for that, Stacy.
Absolutely.
And
And I need to be still. Add that, it's very important for us to learn stillness. And by that, I don't mean that you need to sit and meditate for an hour a day, right? If you can just take 5 minutes or 3 minutes to still your mind, to focus on your breath and bring yourself back into alignment with your body, um, and slow everything down, it makes a huge, huge difference. And be present, right? Be present with what you're doing. Don't be worried about something else. I know that's very, very difficult sometimes. I used to be a worrier. I'm not really a worrier anymore, right? I kind of trained myself away from that. Be present and engaged in what you're doing. Otherwise, it's like you're running down the road as fast as you can and everything's passing you by and you're missing all of it.
100% yes. I mean, stillness can mean so many things. It doesn't have, just like you said, it doesn't have to be you sitting and meditating under a tree. It just means that, again, like you said, being present in the moment. It's about finding happiness and peace in the smallest of things and really enjoying them. So that's exactly what stillness is, according to me. And you have described it perfectly. So again, thank you for that, Stacy. Today's conversation, it has, made me reflect myself a lot. And I think that it has done the same to our listeners. And so for our listeners, I want them to reflect, a reflection question for them so that they can look into themselves and ask themselves this. So, dear listeners, if your emotional triggers were messengers rather than obstacles, what might they be trying to show you about your path to joy? This is something to think about for you all till our next show comes. And just remember that joy isn't found by changing who you are, it's revealed by understanding yourself more deeply. Stacy, before we wrap this up, it has been amazing, and I know that a lot of our listeners will be more intrigued to know about you more, maybe reach out to you, take up on your course. So, where can listeners connect with you and explore Treasure Map to Joy and Modern Consciousness?
Yes, they can go to my website, which is modernconsciousness.com. And if they go under everything is on my website, how to contact me, access to my social media accounts, so on and so forth. If you go under programs, I do have two free resources. One is a self sabotage quiz, but the other one is the one that I talked about, which is the triggers workbook, right? It's navigating your emotional triggers. And again, that would, if I could only have one piece of advice for people, that one is life changing.
Great, great. So I'll have all the details on my show listing, and our listeners are free to reach out to you whenever and however they can. And thank you for spending this time in the Aura room. Stacie, thanks to you as well. And listeners, if today's conversation resonated, let it settle gently. No urgency, no fixing. Just like Stacie said. And joy doesn't demand a map overnight. It unfolds as you learn to trust your own inner guidance. Until next time, stay curious, stay present, and honor your unique energetic path.